Wherever you are in this world, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's my distinct pleasure to be here today with you, with someone who has, over the past 3 decades, blazed a trail as one of the most inspirational female leaders in the media industry and beyond. Now, as a Black woman in media, I can certainly attest to the fact that Deborah Lee's perseverance as a champion for change has forged a path and set an example for countless numbers of women navigating their careers and now the corporate boardroom. Now, I'm sure you've seen her bio and seen all the accomplishments, awards, and accolades that she's received and is receiving over the course of her career, and they are so well deserved. In addition, Deborah was appointed to President Obama's White House Management Advisory Board. And with her presence in any room, and we'll see this today, Deborah brings a unique voice and distinctive insight. And she does this for a wide range of companies as a board member. She previously sat on the boards of companies such as Revlon and Twitter, and is currently serving on the boards of AT&T, Burberry, Procter and Gamble, and I think you and Marriott for more than a decade. Or a couple.
Almost two
Most
decades.
recently, Deborah is co-created the Monarchs Collective, and she is super excited about this, as am I. This is a new consulting firm that's focused on identifying, coaching, and elevating Black talent and women to executive roles. She's creating a future in which diverse leadership is reflected across the entire corporate landscape. And I think you can see that she is truly a vanguard, and given her incredible background, today I can't think of a better person to speak on the value of diversity and inclusion on corporate boards. But lastly, on a personal note, I just want to say that 10 years ago, Deborah's daughter Ava and my daughter Alexis graduated from high school together. So not only is Deborah amazing, I know that she has an amazing daughter as well. So with that, we are so thrilled to have you, Deborah. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Wonya, and I'm honored to be here and to be here with you. I've been a fan of yours for many years, and I've taken great pleasure in seeing your career soar and you moving from to higher and higher positions. So congratulations! And that statement about our daughters brought a tear to my eye to think that it was 10 years ago that they graduated. I remember I did the commencement speech, which my daughter was not very happy about, but she survived it with me. But anyway, so great to see you, and thank you for all your kind words.
Well, thank you for this. So I'm going to take you back. You began your career 30 years ago, right? And thankfully, we've made some significant progress since then in terms of women and diversity in leadership roles. And when you think back over the course of your professional career, can you think of or share a teachable moment that helped you navigate your career and helped you evolve in your leadership positions?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, my career has been a little longer than you said. It's been 37 years if you count my time at a law firm and my clerkship. I was at BET 32 years, and I've been, quote, retired for about 3 years. But it's been a long career, and I'm very proud of that and enjoyed my many years at BET and Viacom. I would say one of the most important teachable lessons for me was after I became CEO of BET Networks. And prior to that, for 10 years, I was COO. And when you're COO, no one asks you what your vision is. You implement someone else's vision, the CEO's vision. So when I became CEO myself, everyone started asking me what my vision was. I had to quickly come up with something. But I think during those first 3 or 4 years as CEO, it took me a moment to really determine what was important to me personally. and what I wanted to achieve as CEO of BET. So we did a branding study and we talked about individual values, and I really dug deep into myself and what was important to me, and came up with a strategy for BET called Respect, Reflect, and Elevate. And that's what we wanted to do for our audience. And that was a defining moment for me to be able to step back. It took us about 18 months and really think about our brand and what BET stood for. And our audience always expected more from us in terms of being there when something happened in the Black community, having a news presence, having an authentic voice, not a stereotypical voice like some other networks were doing with their Black programming. And I used to think that was a burden, but over time, I realized that that was the passion of our audience. And if we did it right, they would show up. So that was my North Star for the rest of my time at BET Networks.
Well, I have to tell you, as a young girl growing up in the South, a teenager actually, BET was so important to the community and to our community, and to me personally, honestly, to be able to see yourself on the screen and
Right.
see your stories told. And so let's go to the corporate boardroom.
Mm.
And when you sit in the corporate boardroom as a Black female director, what are your perspectives and why do you think it's so important to have diverse and female leadership present in the boardroom?
Right. Well, thank you for that question. It's so important. And I was lucky early on to be recommended for a board. My first board was Kodak. And it's not a world I knew very much about. I think it was a well-kept secret from the Black community that you could serve on boards and what the process involved, and how you could contribute so much by being on a board. So let me answer your first question. I think diversity it brings great different opinions to the boardroom. And it's been shown that it also makes companies more profitable. If you have a diverse consumer base or audience, to have people in the boardroom representing those different communities is really important. So it's not only the right thing to do, it's a profitable thing to do. And I think we've been talking about the need for diversity in the boardroom for over 20 years. I've served on boards for over 20 years. And the renewed focus on it has been as a result of the George Floyd murder. And after his murder, a lot of companies came forward and said, we support Black Lives Matter. We're going to give $10 million to this social justice organization. A lot of them did nice PSAs about equality, racial equality. But young people who are very insightful, and we know that from our daughters, pulled the curtains back and said, well, if you're so committed to Black Lives Matter, how come there are no Black people on your board? How come there are no women on your board? And so that renewed the focus on diversity. So it's something that's really needed in our country and in our world. You see an increased focus in the UK and other countries. And it just makes a company perform better. And it's better for the shareholders, it's better for the consumer slash audience. And I think it really helps the CEO make better decisions, to have different input from different types of people.
Thank you. Well, I think one of the things that's most interesting about your corporate board career is that you've worked with, you sat on the board of a variety of companies, really different types of businesses. So how do you choose the best company or organization for fit as it relates to being a corporate director?
Well, that's a very good question. And early on, I wasn't very intentional about it. I was pretty much, if someone asked, I would go on the board if I was impressed by the CEO and the management team. I always wanted to be on the board of companies that cared about diversity and that had a management team that was trustworthy. You never want to be in an Enron situation or on a board of a company that's having issues. So the only way you can judge that is by meeting the CEO and the management group, especially the general counsel and the CFO. Those are very important roles, and you have to believe in those people. As the years went on, and was on more boards, and then when I stepped down from BET, I was much more intentional, especially when I stepped down from BET, because this was a phase of my life where I wanted to do things I was passionate about. And all the boards I had been on before were great experiences, and I had learned a lot about different industries. But now I wanted to have some fun, more fun than I had had before. And I knew boards were an important part of my next phase. I wanted to stay involved in the corporate world and stay on board. So I went on Burberry because I'm interested in fashion. I went on AT&T's board because they had just acquired Warner Media, and I was, my background is in content. I went on the P&G board because I've always respected Procter and Gamble and their commitment to diversity. So I think you, as an individual, you have to ask yourself what's important to you as you're looking at boards, and make decisions not just because you're asked, but because you feel good about the company. And I think this is the time to do that. To be intentional and really look for boards that you're excited about and that you think you can offer your expertise and help the company grow.
Well, I have the benefit and pleasure of knowing a few people that actually sit in the boardroom with you at some of those companies. Yeah, Fabiola,
Oh, yeah.
and Frank. Yeah, and so I know that you are an incredibly effective corporate board member.
Oh,
And so
thank
it'd be
you.
great if you could share some of your insights in terms of, how you, as a unique individual, as a Black woman, when you're in the corporate boardroom, what are some of the most effective characteristics that make a good corporate board director?
Right. It's so important. I think my goal is to, first of all, bring my whole self to the boardroom. There's no hiding the fact that I'm a Black woman. And I think that adds to my expertise, my experience at BET, marketing to the African American community, staying on top of issues important to the African American community. So it's really important to me to bring all of that to the boardroom. On the other hand, I don't want to just be the Black director. And all eyes turn to me when we're talking about an issue regarding race or regarding diversity at the company. I want to have allies on the board, so white board members who speak up about equality and diversity. And I want to give my expertise in marketing and P&L and human resource issues. All the experience I've gained over the years as COO and CEO, I want to bring that to the boardroom too, and I want to be recognized as an expert in those areas. So, it's important to me to bring the whole package. I think part of, and I know we're going to talk about Monarchs Collective, the company I started, but part of being an effective board member is knowing when to speak up and how to speak up, understanding that a lot of the work gets done in committees. My first nonprofit board was Brown University. And it was always amazing when we got to the trustee meeting, the last day of 3-day meetings, that everything was voted on so quickly. And I'm like, there's no discussion. What is going on? And then I realized everything got done in the committees before the trustee meeting. So everyone knew where they stood, and issues had already been debated. Now, it's not quite that way in the boardroom. There's still time for discussion, vote on issues, but a lot of things do get done in committees. But I think most CEOs still want to hear from their board members if they have concerns or they don't agree with particular issues. So, it's important to know how to give that kind of feedback. And that's one of the things we focus on with training with the Monarch Collective, because if you've never been in a boardroom, you don't know how it works. If you've never been in your company's boardroom or sat on a board. So it's, I think we think it's important for individuals to have some training before they go into a boardroom. And we also think it's important for the company to have some training as to how to welcome a new diverse board member, how you to make sure they get leadership positions, appointed as chairs of committees after they've served on the board a while, or even as chairman of the board. There's still a hierarchy after you get on a board. So you want to be considered for all those opportunities. So it's really a two-way street. To make sure all board members are being heard. I've been on some boards where at the end of the board meeting, there's an executive session and the lead director or chairman of the board will go around and ask everyone's opinion on the board meeting to make sure that if there's some board members, that haven't spoken, that they have the opportunity to have their input. So it's all about giving input, not being afraid to be your authentic self and learning to work with your fellow board members.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you. I know you're on the P&G board, and you mentioned George Floyd. And we know the tremendous efforts that are being made in corporate America around DEI, and not just because of that incident, but in general, many others. I have to give accolades to P&G for the work that they did, especially during that time frame. The look and the talk, so authentic, so necessary. If you've not seen those two long form commercials, you should see them because they're transformational. You mentioned Monarch Collective, and I just want to, if you could just share with the audience what you're doing, what that is. You talked a little bit about it, but I want to make sure everybody understands the great work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I noticed when I stepped down from BET 3 years ago, most of the calls I received were either from companies wanting me to be on their board or from potential candidates wanting to know how to get on a board. And I got to a point where I had 4 boards after I went on the P&G board. And to your point, as I said, I wasn't looking for a 4th board, but when P&G called, I couldn't say no because I knew all the good work they had done. And Mark Pritchard, who's head of marketing, has been committed to diversity for so long. And they really walk the walk. They really, as you say, do things that the community benefits from, like the look and the talk. I wondered why companies kept calling me because I had to say, I'm on 4 boards. I can't be on any more. And it kept happening. And then, as I said, candidates were calling me also. And then George Floyd's murder happened. And I think we all took a step back after that happened to say, what can we do to make this a better world? It was clear from his murder that Black people still had a ways to go in terms of equality. For this policeman to nonchalantly sit on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes was just unbelievable and hard to watch. So a friend of mine who had done a lot of executive coaching for me at BET named Rabia Deland Long, and the 2 of us were talking one day and we were like, well, what can we do? And, we noticed that there was this push for more diversity. And I was a little tired. We both were tired of hearing companies say, well, we can't find qualified Black candidates, or we can't find qualified women to be on our board. So we said, we know a lot of women, we know a lot of Black corporate executives, and we're going to connect the two. We're going to be intentional about it. We're not going to try to service the whole market. We're going to let people know we're focusing on people of color and women. And we're going to provide names and we're going to provide training. So we did a soft launch in June, and then we publicly announced it the day before the inauguration, which sounds like a terrible time to announce anything, but we got a lot of great publicity. And I got so many calls from companies and individuals saying, this is great what you're doing. It's so needed. Thank you. And we've been doing this work since January, and it's really my passion and my partner's passion also. And we've been having great conversations with companies and with individuals. And I'm so impressed by the number and quality of candidates who called me, and they just didn't know how to go about getting on a board. They were interested, but they didn't, either they were a little afraid of search firms. If you don't, haven't dealt with search firms, that can happen. Or they just didn't know which search firms were really interested in diversity. So once the word got out about Monarchs Collective, they've started calling me, which is really heartwarming. And we've made a few connections already, and it's just the best feeling. I don't want to say it's like matchmaking, but it's kind of like matchmaking. One CEO, I gave the names of 3 Black women to him. He interviewed every one of them and picked one of them. And I was so excited. I said, this is the way it's supposed to work, because sometimes if you call a search firm, a major search firm, or one that deals with all people, they don't really have a robust list of diverse candidates. And when they get a call for diversity, they call their one Black friend and say, who do you know? And that's not the way it should work. There should be more effort and more attention paid to it. And then you wouldn't have people like me getting too many calls. There's so many other well-qualified candidates out there, and I'm excited about connecting them to the right companies.
Well, you are doing good work because it is difficult to navigate. So thank you. Thank you for that. So we have time for one question from the chat box. And that is, what are the questions that we're not asking about DE&I that we should be asking? Good question.
What are the questions we're not asking? I think one of the things I see happening is we're not asking, how long is this going to take? And how quickly, maybe this is a better way to put it, how quickly can we make it happen? I mean, I've heard CEOs over the years say, oh, it's going to take us 7 years. Oh, it's going to take us 10 years. Oh, this is so hard. Well, I'm here to say, one, it's not hard. You just have to be intentional and keep focusing on it. And two, it can be done quickly, and it needs to be done quickly, because those CEOs who said 7 or 10 years ago, that's now 20 years ago. That, those benchmarks have come and gone. And some companies are still not focusing on it. And I haven't talked a lot about the C-suite, but it's very important in the C-suite also to have diversity. And that's another thing Monarchs Collective is focusing on. So I think the quick question is, how quickly can we get this done? And to say, we're not going to hire anyone until we find the right diverse candidate. And that's a hard thing to do sometimes, but it's really necessary.
Well, I have to tell you, you have dropped some serious knowledge on us today. It has just been a pleasure and a delight to hear from you, and really to benefit from all of your experience. And you're such a warm and kind and giving person. And thank you for all the work that you have done to get many of us where we are today, but also all the work you're doing to continue to pay it forward to the women and the people of color who really deserve a seat at the table. So thank you so much, Deborah. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Wonya. And this was a wonderful conversation. So great to see you again.
Great to see you as well.